Good morning, everyone.
Good morning,
Good
Rabbi.
morning.
We are learning Mishna Bava Kamma, Parak Dalet, Chapter 4, Mishna Test, Mishna 9. All right. So now, the Mishnah begins with the following case. Now, we've been learning until now about the obligated responsibilities that a person has regarding their animal, regarding the damages that their animal does. And now, the case is like this. Masarai, basically, the discussion here is going to be what happens when the owner gives this animal over to someone else. Gives the animal to someone else to take care of. Okay, what's going to be the responsibility of that person? So, Misar l'shemer chinam, if let's say he gave over his animal to a unpaid watchman, ulashayel, or to a borrower, I mean he lent it to someone, l'naisei sachar, or to a paid watchman, ulaseichar, or to a renter. These are the four examples of shomrim, of guards, that the Torah talks about. Nichnesu tachas ha'ba'olim. They now enter in place of the owners. They now become responsible for that animal. Muad mishalem nezek shalem. If the animal hasn't been established as a muad, that means the owner would be paying full damages if it damaged. So too now, the person who now has his animal is going to pay full damage. The tam mishalem chatzi nezek. And if the animal is a tam, it has not yet established considered a normal pattern for it to damage, and it did so before it has established a normal pattern, the damage paid is half damage, as we're learning until now. And this will now become the responsibility of the shomer, of the one who guarded it. The one who guards it now takes over the place of the owner. Now, what exactly are going to be his responsibilities? What exactly does he need to do, or what would be what needs to happen for him to be actually responsible and to pay? Now, without getting into all the laws of shomrim, of the guards, but what they bring down here from the Tosfos Yantiv, which is important to know, is an unpaid watchman is obligated to pay only if he was negligent. That's the rule about a shomer chinam. An unpaid watchman is responsible for negligence. If something happens to what he's guarding, let's say in a regular case, he's guarding something, it gets lost, and it was due to his negligence, he's obligated. Let's say it was stolen from him. He's not obligated. Shomer chinam is not responsible for that level of protecting the animal. So when we get here to the question of the shomer's responsibility over the animal he's watching regarding the animal's damaging, so the unpaid watchman is only going to be obligated if he was negligent. The other shomrim, the other guards that we're talking about, who have a greater responsibility of guarding, so the way that is the following. The others, however, must always pay unless they provided the same level of supervision that the owner himself is required to provide. Meaning, whatever the owner himself is required to provide protection of guarding his animal, that if he does so, he would be exempt. Otherwise, he would be liable. All the other shomrim that we're talking about, the borrower, the renter, the paid watchman, they all will be liable the same way the owner will be liable. Whatever he does to guard the animal that would exempt him from the animal's damages, they would be exempted from. While if the owner doesn't do what he's supposed to do in order to guard the animal, and that's what the guard did the same thing, he'd be responsible. So what we're going to learn soon, which is the next part of the Mishnah, is what exactly does an owner have to do to watch his animal. The shomer chinam, the unpaid watchman, is really not going to be responsible in those cases, because since he's only obligated in negligence, the examples that we're going to talk about soon are not negligence. The question is, are they sufficient? But they're not negligence. And therefore, they would, in regard to a person who's watching somebody else's animal, we're about to learn about the responsibilities of an owner of his animal will apply to those other guards other than the shomer chinam, other than the unpaid watchman. So now the next part of the Mishnah continues about what does an owner have to do in order to be considered that he has watched the animal properly. So the Mishnah says, Kasharai ba'alav b'meisera. Let's say the owner is tied up the animal with a meisera. That means he tied the animal with a leash, a rope of sorts, okay? He tied it up, on a post, whatever it may be. He tied it up on a post, and it's a kind of rope or leash that under normal circumstances will be able to contain the animal. under normal circumstances. Or the next case is v'no b'fanav karoi, or he locked the gate in front of it in a proper way, which means that, again, he locked the gate in a way that this gate would be able to withstand the normal wind. The normal wind blows on it, it stays, it stands. So the examples the Mishnah gives right now are examples where the owner tried to restrain his animal using these means, such as the leash, such as shutting the door, where normal conditions, this will work to stop the animal from damaging. Nonetheless, what happened here? The animal went down and damaged. That means the animal went kind of crazy. The animal was fighting, trying to get out let's call it an abnormal way, or a very strong wind, a not typical wind, came and blew down the fence, and therefore the animal went down and damaged. Echad tam ve'echad muad, whether the animal was a tam or a muad, chayev. The owner is responsible. Divrei Rabbi Meir, these are the words of Rabbi Meir. According to Rabbi Meir, doing let's call it a guarding of the animal in a way that it would be restrained under normal conditions from getting out, but under conditions that are beyond normal would not be enough. And because of that, the animal went out. Because of these abnormal conditions, the animal went out and damaged. You're responsible, says Rabbi Meir. And this in halacha is called, we have something called shmira pechusa, which means an ordinary or lesser guarding, and shmira me'ula, a superior guarding. What would be an example of a superior guarding on an animal? Even Rabbi Meir would say that if the animal got out, you wouldn't be responsible. That would be, let's say you tie the animal with an iron chain. Okay, you chained it. It's an iron chain.
All right, now
an iron chain. The animal is not going to get. No matter how hard it works on it to get out, it's not going to get out. Or you lock, or to lock it behind the door to withstand even unusual strong wind. A very strong wall that even if a really strong wind comes, it'll stand. That's called shmira me'ula. That's called superior guarding. If you did that kind of superior guarding and still the animal got out somehow or another, then Reb Meir says you're not going to be liable. But if you just do, let's call a regular guarding, right? That restrains the animal in normal conditions, and now because the conditions weren't normal, it went out and it damaged. Kof says Reb Meir, you're liable. Whether the animal is a tam or the animal is a muad, you got to pay. Okay, and again, we're talking about an owner right now. The same thing would apply to any other a person who's guarding the animal, other than the shomer chinam. You're not going to call this negligence when he does a regular ordinary guarding. But for the other shomrim that have a greater responsibility, they be responsible just like the owner. So this is the first opinion, Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says, tam chayiv umuad pater. A animal that is a tam under these circumstances would be liable to pay. An animal that is muad is exempt. Shenemar, as it says, v'lo yishmer enu balav. When it comes to the Torah talking about the muad animal damaging, the Torah says the animal damaged, v'lo yishmer enu balav, and the owner didn't guard it. That's how the Torah lays it out. The animal damaged because the owner didn't guard it. Now, says Rabbi Yehuda, if you go ahead and you tie it with a leash, is it guarded?
No.
Yes, it is. It is guarded. For normal conditions, it's guarded. And therefore, says Rabbi Yehuda, the shomer who is there, and this animal was guarded. Meaning the Torah only talks about the liability of a muad. It talks about it in a context of not being guarded. Okay, well, was it guarded here? Says Rabbi Yehuda, yes, it was. It was guarded. And once it's guarded, the status of muad isn't applicable. It's not going to make a difference. You're not going to pay full damages. Now, it's important to understand, according to Rabbi Yehuda does not mean if the animal is a muad, that now you don't have to pay anything. You don't pay as a muad. You don't pay the full damages. But you're not going to dismiss the fact that, there is still, every muad also has to it the let's call it the tam part of it, right? Every muad pays double of what a tam pays. So when you say that in this case, the muad is not going to be responsible, you're not going to pay, that means you don't pay full damages. You're still going to pay half damage. You're not going to get off scot-free. You're not going to have the responsibilities of a mu'ud animal, but as the Gemara says, and the Bartuna points out, that tzad tamus, the aspect or the side of tamus, of half damages that does exist within even a regular animal, even a mu'ud animal, is going to have to pay. So I read it from here. If Yehuda exempts the owner only from paying the second half of the full damages, he must still pay the half that he would have had to pay had the ox been a tam. Meaning, got to pay chatzi nezek in this case. You're not going to get it off scot-free. You're telling me that a tam is going to pay half damages and the mu'ud's not going to pay anything? That's not what it means. It means the mu'ud will not pay what a mu'ud pays, but it's still going to pay the half damage of if the animal would have been a tam. That's Rabbi Yehuda's. Rabbi Elazar Omer. Rabbi Elazar says, Ein lo shmira ela sakin. The only way to guard a mu'ud is with a knife. That means you shecht it. If you shecht it, then you're not responsible anymore. But until then, no matter what it is that you've done with this animal, you did a chain, you did whatever it may be, you're responsible. No matter what, you're responsible. That's Rabbi Elazar's opinion. So therefore, just to sum it up right now, we have it like this. According to Reb Meir, the owner must pay full damages unless he had guarded it in a superior way. You chain up the animal, according to Reb Meir, and the animal still gets out, you're exempt. According to Rabbi Yehuda, methods that work in normal circumstances are enough to exempt him from paying the half of the damage, but superior methods are needed to exempt him from the other half. So again, you have a mu'ud. Mu'ud pays full damages. If you did a superior guarding, you chained it up, you'd be exempt if it got out anyway. If you went ahead and you didn't do a superior one, you did a regular one, so according to Rabbi Yehuda, you're not going to pay full damages, but you'll pay half damage. Rabbi Elazar holds that he must always pay in full, no matter how well he guarded it. I don't care what you did. You chained it up. But if at the end of the day it gets out and it damages, according to Rabbi Elazar, you have to pay the full damages. And then they add here, very interestingly, all agree, however, that for damage done by a tam, he must pay half unless he guarded it in a superior manner. According to everybody, if you have a tam, because even Rabbi Elazar only spoke about a mu'ud when he said that. When you're talking about a tam, however, he must pay half unless he guarded it in a superior manner. If the animal is a tam and you chained it up and it still got out, you'd be exempt. Everybody agrees with that. The question becomes, by a mu'ud, by the animal that's already, it's considered its regular nature to go ahead and damage, that is where we have this three-way argument. Have a wonderful day. Shavua Tov. Agat Tavach.